In this one, we're going to be setting up basic user registration and basic user login. Now, the reason we're doing this is to show you how you can do it on a very basic scale to kind of introduce you to that concept, but also so you know that the ones that are more powerful, that is like Django All-Auth and Django Registration Redux, and also Python Social Auth, the third parties that actually do this, they do what we're about to do, but in more detail, and it's just a little bit more robust than what we're going to be doing. But it's still useful for you to learn, at least on a basic scale, on how this works. Now, we do go into more depth on a lot of things here, which we will talk about, but one of them being the Django forms. So we go into more depth on our website on that stuff specifically. We also have a simple custom auth. So going into doing this same sort of thing, but adding a whole nother level to it, that is another one that you might consider checking out. But the main thing for this is to really just basically understand how to do this authentication stuff, because as the blog is concerned, we do want to be able to have users log in and actually make comments versus how it is right now where they can't actually do that. And the reason that we're not jumping into using like Django Registration Redux, especially if you followed Try Django 1.8, the reason for that is to give you a more comprehensive look at building very basic yet powerful features in Django. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We are going to create a brand new app in here for this blog. I'm going to call it accounts. You can call it whatever you like, but for the purpose of the video, accounts makes the most sense, right? Because it's going to be related to user accounts. That is, log in and register. So Python manage.py, start app, accounts, and Python manage. And then inside of our accounts, what we're going to be doing is views and then also forms. So the first thing is, let's go ahead and think through the different views we want. So first of all, I'll define the functions for it. So the first one, I'll do login view, and it's just going to take in request, and then it's going to return render and some other stuff. So we'll just do request, some template. I'll just say form.html for right now, and then I'll just put an empty context empty dictionary there for our context. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this view and paste it a couple more times. The reason for a couple more times is because we want a register view. And we also want a logout view. It makes sense to actually end the session. It's really important that you do _view because there is a login method or function that Django has specifically. So since we're talking about it, we might as well import it. I'm going to import a few things from authentication. That's from django.contrib.auth. We're going to import, and using parentheses here, we're going to do authenticate. All of these things will be explained as we use them. We'll do model, login, and logout. So as we see here, we have two functions, login and logout. So that's even more important for login view as well as logout view. Register view, we don't actually have one, but we will need to create forms for each aspect of this. So the first form that I'm going to create is just the login form. So let's go into accounts, and we'll go to new file, and we'll do forms.py, and we'll do from Django import forms. And we're going to say class user login form, and this is forms.form. And there's two fields we're going to use, and that's username equals to forms.char field. And then we are going to do password, which is forms.char field. And we want to use a widget for password input. So we'll do widget equals to forms.password input. Without going into, we actually don't need the parentheses at the end of password input, but without going into too much detail here, password input is just going to basically hide the password from the user from seeing it. This is good for, passwords when you're actually entering those passwords in. Okay, so this is the basic form that we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to go back into our login view. And we want to put that form in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do from.forms, import user login form, and we'll say form equals to user login form, request.post or none. Hopefully all of that is very clear as to how that works at this point. And then we'll do if form.isValid, then we are going to get the username equals to form.cleanedData.get username, and then the password. equals to form.cleanData.get password. Cool. And don't really need to test this at this point, mainly because, well, this is just very standard form kind of interactions. If you're really not familiar with this or it's not confusing to you, go back and watch from the beginning of Django 1.9 or even watch Django 1.8, because this form stuff right where we're at right now is fairly early on stuff. So you hopefully have done this a ton, and this should be a little repetitive to you at this point. Okay, so now that we've got this form, we want to put this into our context dictionary here. That's all I'm going to do. And then I also want to check out the template to make sure that I have a form, and I don't. I have a post form, so maybe we could just use that. Let's actually take a look at the post form. It is similar to what we want, but overall we don't need this preview and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and make a new template for form.html. Paste that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this preview area and just do column small offset 3. And we'll leave form. You could put a title. Actually, let's just do it. Let's put a title in here. And I'm going to get rid of this block extra because we don't need that. Cool. So now we've got our form, and this title is going to go here too. So we're just basically putting the title in two places. It's going to be login as well as register. So since we have that context, we do want to add it in to our view, and we'll do title equals to login, and we're going to pass that into our context dictionary. Again, all of this stuff should be fairly straightforward to you. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and add this view into our URLs. So inside of blog URLs, we are going to go ahead and import this here. And I'm going to import this directly. So from accounts.views, import, and we're going to import the login view. We might as well import the other views as well because we will use them. So register view as well as logout view. We don't have to actually add a view for them quite yet, but we will at least put them on there. And I'm going to go ahead and write out the URL for it using a very simple regular expression, which is just going to be login. And then we're going to then we're going to do login view. And we're going to add a name of login. Cool. So that's it. That's all we need to do for our login. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. We might need to make sure the server is running. It's probably not, and it is not. So python manage.py, run server. Press up a couple times and we'll get up. And it's saying no, cannot import name user login form. So let's go back into our forms and make sure we've saved it. So now it's saved. So it looks like that error goes away, and it does. So we refresh, and now we've got this login stuff. I already have autocomplete on there, but I don't want it. So I'm going to open up a incognito window and just say ABC123 password. Nothing seems to happen. And that's where validation is going to be coming very, very important here, to validate that this user exists, but then also after to assume that the user exists after to actually authenticate them. And that's where this stuff is going to come in, and we will definitely come back to that in the next one. If you have any questions on what we did to set up this in particular, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.